Hi guys and welcome to Dial It Up. Today we're going to be talking about all of the changes that have recently been made to sizes in the game. Now this errata came out a couple of weeks ago now, and it changes not only the combat abilities that are associated with different sizes, but also just the rules in general for sizes. So we're going to go over just the beginning part, and that is the general rules that have changed for sizes themselves. Previously, the only rule that we had for sizes was that characters of a smaller size don't block line of fire. That was the only rule that happened in the game for sizes. Now they're actually going to add to that, and there's just going to be a whole section of general rules based on the size of the characters. So the line of fire thing is still there. Characters of a smaller size still don't block lines of fire. Now the next part is they've added bonuses to breakaway. So now with breakaway, whenever you are rolling for it, if your character is a size bigger, so a standard character breaking away from a tiny, a giant breaking away from a standard, a colossal breaking away from a giant, you get to modify your breakaway roll +1. Sorry, excuse me. And then if your character is actually 2 sizes bigger, so a giant from a tiny or a colossal from a standard, you break away all automatically and you don't have to make that roll. This is something that used to kind of be part of Colossals. They've taken that part out and added it into other sizes. The next part that they're changing to the general rules of sizes is knockback. And for that, they've just said that characters that are smaller than you can't knock you back. So a tiny can't knock back a standard can't knock back a giant can't knock back a colossal. Now usually in the case of a colossal, they're multi-base characters and they wouldn't be able to be knocked back anyways, but there are certain exceptions like the Pacific Rim characters. As well, there are a lot of game effects now that change a character's size, so there's still going to be a single base, but now a single base colossal or a single base giant, which is why that these rules actually make more effect now in the game than they did, say, a year ago. And the final rule that they're adding into general rules for sizes is carry. Now, if you remember a couple weeks back, I actually did a little episode, mini episode, on tiny size. And that included the tiny size carry, which allowed bigger characters that were adjacent to the tiny character to be able to carry them without having to modify their speed. Now that's something that's just going to be inherent for all sizes. So if a standard character and a tiny, they carry the tiny for free. If a giant now wants to carry a standard character, now they don't have to modify their speed value when doing that. And also, if a colossal wants to pick up a giant or any other smaller sizes, they just pick them up and go. They don't have to modify their speed. So this is a new addition to all sizes. Before it was restricted just to tiny. And also they don't care about combat symbols. So the normal combat symbols that would keep you from being carried, like a flyer or a transporter or a duo, all of those characters can now be carried if they're being carried by a bigger character. So now that they've taken this carry away from tiny, tiny size is actually one of the combat abilities that have been errated and changed along with these big changes that are being made. And tiny size now is just strictly a tiny size character gets +1 to their defense versus range. Very simple, very straightforward now. Because that carry is now just inherent to all sizes, tiny size just gives you that extra bonus for being shot at because you're tiny and you're harder to hit. The next standard power, or sorry, I should say combat ability in the pack, powers and abilities card that is being errated for this, is great size. So the first thing that changed is, along with all of the improved movement that great size has, they included the improved targeting that allows a great size character to shoot in and out of base. So this was something that great size didn't have before. This was something that used to be part of colossal stamina, so only colossals had this before. But now they're adding it into great size, which allows giants to now either shoot the person next to them or shoot while there's somebody next to them. The next part of great size that they changed is a really, really big change, and that is the line of fire. It used to say along the lines of line of fire to and from this character can be drawn from any elevation, blah, 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 blah. The most complicated thing ever, and if you guys watch my map train and line of fire episodes, I point out how complicated that can be when you have a great size character trying to draw lines of fire and what it gets blocked by, what's not blocked by. They have really simplified that down to the point where any character of great size, lines of fire to and from them are just not blocked by elevated or outdoor blocking. So now we don't even have to care about how many elevations they are, what level of elevation they're shooting from. They just see through it. It's almost as if they have improved targeting, ignore elevated, and improved targeting, ignore outdoor blocking. Now it is specific to outdoor blocking, so you bring that great size character inside, they're not going to see through walls, but you take them outside, they're not going to be able to hide behind a building, but now they can see you over the building, and they're not going to be able to be hidden behind a small piece of blocking, but that also means that your outdoor barrier isn't going to keep you from that great size character attacking you. So the next combat ability that is being changed for the great size errata is the Colossal Stamina. Now I already mentioned that the improved targeting, shooting in and out of base, that's being moved over to the great size. So for Colossal Stamina, that's just getting taken out. The breakaway part, that's just getting taken out. And what Colossal Stamina does now is what we've always assumed Colossal Stamina just did. And that was being able to give them a non-free action once they have 2 tokens and then take 1 avoidable damage for doing so, and allowing them to take an action every single turn so long as they hurt themselves. This is the most associated ability with Colossal Stamina, and they've just shortened it down to that is now the only ability of Colossal Stamina. The final combat ability that has been errated for this is Giant Reach. Giant Reach was also what used to give giants carry and allowed them to carry characters as a regular source of carry, so I'll buy all the old carry rules. Now that's been taken out because, like I mentioned earlier, carry is now just an inherent thing that characters of different sizes are going to be able to do. So Giant Reach has just been shrunk down to being able to make a close combat attack against characters occupying squares, certain squares away. So Giant Reach used to be that the squares within 2 squares of the character were considered adjacent as long as those squares were in line of fire. You weren't actually drawing line of fire to the characters, so anything like stealth like that, it's not gonna stop them from doing their Giant Reach attack. It was just if they were in those 2 squares, if the giant could see those 2 squares, they could make the close combat attack. Now Giant Reach has been changed to Giant Reach X, which means that they're going to change what that number is. Now Giant Reach used to be an ability that was only given to giants. With this errata, they are now giving it to Colossals. Giants are going to have Giant Reach 2, which allows them to make a close combat attack within 2 squares. Colossals are now going to get Giant Reach 3, which allows them to make a close combat attack within 3 squares around them. Which, considering that we've gotten some pretty big Colossals, like characters that are 3 by 6, that's a lot of the map that's covering by a Giant Reach 3. Also, to add to that, any previous instance of this character can use Giant Reach, so like the Red Lantern Emotional Spectrum, all of those are going to be Giant Reach 2. So right now, the only thing that gives Giant Reach 3 is the Colossal Big Fist symbol. The final change that has been made in this big size errata was actually a change to one of the standard powers, and that's Plasticity. Plasticity works the way that it used to before. They get, characters with Plasticity get +2 to their breakaway, characters against Plasticity -2 to their breakaway. However, what has been errated for plasticity is that plasticity only affects characters of the same size or smaller. So now, unfortunately, those few really good characters that were tiny size, that had plasticity, I'm looking at you, Atomica, kind of get the short end of the stick on this, and that now they only affect other tiny size characters. So that was the big size errata, and hopefully I went over that enough for you guys, but if you have any comments, questions, concerns, just leave one comment down below, and we'll see you next time for another episode of Dialect.